The alarm bells rang through the Earth Defense Command Center. Admiral Kate Morrison looked up from her coffee as red lights flashed across the control room. Officers ran between computer screens, their faces worried. "What's happening?" Kate asked. Lieutenant Lisa Murphy ran over with a datapad in her hands. "Admiral, we got a message from the Galactic Council. It's marked urgent." Kate took the pad and read the message. Her face went pale. "Get me Captain Ryan Blake on the comm now." The big screen in front of them lit up. Captain Blake's face appeared. Behind him, Kate could see his crew working at their stations. "Admiral, what's the situation?" Blake asked. "Ryan, we have a problem. A big one." Kate held up the datapad. "The Kepler 442 system is under attack. 3 billion people are going to die. Unless someone helps them?" Blake's eyes went hard. "Who's attacking them?" "Something called the Voidborn Collective. The Council says they're not like anything we've seen before. They don't just conquer planets. They kill everything on them." On the screen, Blake turned to talk to someone off camera. Kate could hear him giving orders to his crew. When he turned back, his face was serious. "What do they want us to do about it?" Blake asked. "They want Earth to send help. The Council says we're the only ones who can get there in time. Every other race is too far away or doesn't have strong enough ships." Kate touched her screen and sent Blake the full report. She watched. His face, as he read it, its expression got darker with each line. "Admiral, this doesn't make sense," Blake said. "Why would they ask us? Half the galaxy thinks we're too violent. They usually don't want our help, I know, but look at what they're facing." The screen changed to show pictures from the Kepler 442 system. Blake and Kate both stared in shock. Whole planets were black and dead. Space was full of wreckage from destroyed ships. In the middle of it all were strange, dark vessels that looked more like living creatures than machines. "Those are voidborn ships," Kate said. "They've already killed 2 planets. The third one, where the Zephyrians live, has maybe a week left." Blake was quiet for a moment. Kate could see him thinking. "How many ships do they want us to send?" 5 battleships. Your fleet. Just 5 ships against that?" Blake pointed at the screen. "Admiral, there are hundreds of enemy vessels out there. I know the odds are bad, Ryan, but the Council is desperate. They say if the Voidborn aren't stopped at Kepler 442, they'll keep spreading. More worlds will die." Blake nodded slowly. "What about the other captains?" "I'm calling them now. Commander Alex Stone on the UES Defiant. Captain John Carter on the UES Relentless. Captain Maria Santos on the UES Harbinger. And Captain Lisa Kelly on the UES Storm." "That's our heavy battle group," Blake said. "Ships we use for the worst fights." "Exactly." Kate looked at the data one more time. "Ryan, I need to tell you something else. Council vote wasn't unanimous. Some species voted against asking for our help." "Why?" "Because they're afraid of us too." Blake was quiet again. Kate could see the anger in his eyes. "They think we're as dangerous as the things that are killing innocent people?" "Some of them do, but enough of them voted yes because they know we can fight." The screen showed more images from Kepler 442. Ships exploding, cities burning, people running in panic. Kate felt sick looking at it. "Admiral, send me all the data you have on these Voidborn," Blake said. "I want to know everything about them before we get there." "Already done." "Lisa Murphy is putting together a full intelligence report. She'll send it to all 5 ships." "Good. How long do we have?" Kate checked her computer. 3 weeks to get there. "Maybe less if you push your engines hard. We'll push them as hard as they'll go." Blake turned to give more orders to his crew. When he looked back, his face was determined. "Admiral, we'll save those people. I don't care how dangerous these Voidborns think they are. I know you will, Ryan. But be careful. You don't know what we're really dealing with." The connection ended. Kate sat back in her chair and looked at the images from Kepler 442 again. She had sent humanity's most dangerous ships to fight an enemy that had destroyed entire worlds. Part of her wondered if 5 ships would be enough. Lieutenant Murphy came back with more reports. "What I found is scary. Tell me. They don't just kill people. They use them. Their ships are alive, and they're made from the bodies of the people they capture." Kate felt cold. Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am.
And there's something else. Every world they've attacked was completely helpless within days. These aren't just raiders or conquerors. There's something much worse. Kate stood up and walked to the big window that looked out at Earth's blue sky. Somewhere out there, Captain, Blake and his fleet were getting ready to fight monsters. She hoped humanity's reputation for violence would be enough to save 3 billion innocent lives. Murphy, send a message to all Earth defense stations. Tell them to be ready. If Blake's fleet fails, the Voidborn might come here next. Yes, ma'am. Kate kept looking out the window. In a few hours, 5 human warships would jump into hyperspace to fight an enemy that had never lost a battle. She wondered if the galaxy was about to learn why other species feared humanity almost as much as they needed them. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance as it moved through hyperspace. The stars outside looked like long white lines as his ship traveled faster than light toward the Kepler 442 system. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. How long until we get there? Blake asked. 18 days, Captain, said his navigation officer. We're pushing the engines as hard as we can. Blake nodded and walked over to the tactical station where Commander Alex Stone was studying battle plans. Stone commanded the UES Defiant, but he was riding on the Vengeance to coordinate all 5 ships. What do you think of our enemy? Blake asked. Stone looked up from his computer screen. They're not like anything we've fought before, Captain. These Voidborn don't use normal tactics. They just attack everything at once and overwhelm their targets. But they've never fought humans before. No, sir. And I don't think they know what they're getting into. Blake smiled grimly. Human ships were built for war. Every piece of equipment, every weapon, every tactic had been designed during humanity's violent history, while other species in the galaxy had peace for thousands of years. Humans had been fighting each other until just 200 years ago. Lieutenant Lisa Murphy came onto the bridge with a datapad. She looked worried. Captain, I've been reading more intelligence reports about the Galactic Council's decision to ask for our help. What did you find? Murphy hesitated.
Sir, they weren't being completely honest with us.
I intercepted some of their private communications. Blake's face darkened. Show me? Murphy activated the main screen. Alien text appeared with translation. Subtitles. Blake read the messages, and his anger grew with each line. They're afraid of us, he said quietly. Yes, sir. Some council members think humans are almost as dangerous as the Voidborn. They only asked for our help because they were desperate. Commander Stone looked up from his battle plans. What exactly did they say? Murphy changed the screen to show different messages. The Altarian ambassador called us controlled savages. The Centauri representative said asking humans for help. It was like setting one monster against another. Blake was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. They think we're monsters, he said. Fine. Maybe monsters are exactly what those people at Kepler 442 need right now. 3 days later, Dr. Maria Santos came aboard the Vengeance from her ship, the U's Harbinger. She was the fleet's chief medical officer and wanted to coordinate their medical response for the rescue mission. Captain Blake, she said, I've been studying the Zephyrian biology. If we save any survivors, they'll need special medical care. What kind of care? Dr. Santos activated a medical scanner. The Zephyrians breathe a different mixture of gases than we do. Their blood chemistry is also very different. But I can treat them if I have the right equipment. Good. What about the Voidborn? Do we know anything about their biology? Face went pale. Captain, I don't think they have normal biology. From what I can tell, they've changed themselves into something that's part machine, part living tissue, and part something else we don't understand. Blake frowned. Something else? Their ships aren't just alive, Captain. They're made from the nervous systems of the people they've captured. The Voidborn are literally flying around in vessels powered by the suffering of their victims. Bridge went quiet. Blake felt sick thinking about it. How many people have they captured? He asked. Billions, sir. Every world they've conquered, every ship they've destroyed. All those people are still alive inside Voidborn vessels, but they're trapped and in constant pain. Commander Stone stood up from his station. Captain, We need to destroy every single one of those ships. We can't let those people suffer anymore. Blake nodded. Agreed. But first we need to understand our enemy better. Over the next week, the 5 human ships practiced battle formations as they traveled through hyperspace. Captain John Carter from the UES Relentless worked with Blake to develop new attack patterns. Captain Lisa Kelly from the UES Storm tested their weapons systems. Lieutenant Murphy spent her time intercepting more communications from the Galactic Council. What she found made everyone angry. "Captain," she said during a briefing, "the Council has been lying about more than just their opinion of us. They didn't tell us the whole truth about the Voidborn either." "What do you mean?" "The Voidborn aren't from this galaxy. They come from somewhere else, somewhere that's dying. They don't just want to conquer our galaxy. They want to consume it completely and use it to keep their own dimension alive." Blake sat down heavily in his chair. "How many of them are there?" "We don't know, sir. But if they succeed at Kepler 442, more will come. Many more." Dr. Santos looked up from her medical reports. "Captain, there's something else I've been analyzing. The wreckage from battles with the Voidborn. Their weapons don't just kill people. They break down the molecular structure of everything they hit. That's why the planets they attack become completely dead. Can our shields stop weapons like that?" Blake asked. "I don't know, sir. No one has ever survived long enough to test them properly." Blake stood up and walked to the large window that showed the stars streaming past. In 10 days, they would drop out of hyperspace and face an enemy that had never been defeated. An enemy that turned people into living components for their ships. An enemy that could break apart matter itself with their weapons. "Commander Stone," he said without turning around, "I want every weapon on every ship checked and double-checked. I want our shields at maximum power, and I want backup plans for everything." "Yes, sir." "Dr. Santos, prepare for massive casualties. We're going to save as many Zephyrians as we can, but we're also going to lose people." "Understood, Captain." Blake turned back to his crew. "Murphy, keep monitoring Council communications. I want to know if they're planning anything else they haven't told us about." "Already on it, sir?" Blake looked at the tactical display showing their destination. The Kepler 442 system was getting closer every hour. Soon they would face the test that would determine if humanity really was the galaxy's most dangerous species. "One more thing," Blake said. "Send a message to Admiral Morrison on Earth. Tell her that if we don't make it back, she should prepare every ship in the fleet for war. Because if the Voidborn get past us, they won't stop until they've consumed everything." The bridge crew nodded grimly. Outside the window, the stars continued to stream past as 5 human warships carried their deadly cargo toward a battle that would determine the fate of billions. The U's Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Blake stood on his bridge and stared at the main screen in horror. What he saw was worse than any nightmare. 2 planets hung dead in space, their surfaces black and smoking. Where cities once stood, there was only ash. The space around the planets was filled with wreckage from destroyed ships. And moving through it all were the Voidborn vessels. "My God," whispered Commander Stone. "Look at the size of them." The Voidborn ships were massive, dark creatures that looked more like giant sea monsters than spacecraft. Their hulls pulsed with veins of red light. Tentacles hung from their sides, reaching out to grab pieces of wreckage and pull them inside their bodies. "Captain," said Lieutenant Murphy, "I'm reading life signs inside those ships. Thousands of them." Blake's jaw tightened. "The captured people." "Yes, sir. They're still alive in there."
Tactical display, Blake could see the remaining Zephyrian fleet.
Less than 50 ships were left, and they were retreating toward their homeworld. The planet's surface was covered with defense shields, but Blake could see they were failing. "All ships, this is Captain Blake," he said into his communicator. "We're going in. Target the Voidborn vessels attacking the Zephyrian fleet first." 5 human battleships moved forward at full speed. Blake watched as the enemy ships turned toward them. The Voidborn had noticed the new arrivals. "Captain," said his weapons officer, "we're in range." "What are your orders?" Blake thought about the billions of people who had died in this system. He thought about the prisoners trapped inside the enemy ships. He thought about the council members who called humans monsters. "Fire everything," he said. The UES Vengeance unleashed its full arsenal. Railgun rounds, moving at incredible speed, smashed into the nearest void-born ship. Plasma cannons carved through its hull. Nuclear missiles exploded against its tentacles. Enemy ships screamed. Blake could hear it through his ship's hull, a sound of pain and rage that made his crew cover their ears. But the ship didn't die. Its wounds began to heal, the torn flesh growing back together. "Direct hit, but minimal damage," reported the weapons officer. "Sir," said Murphy, "the Voidborn are sending us a message. Put it on screen." The main display changed to show something that barely looked alive. It had too many eyes and a mouth full of needle-sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. "Humans," it said, "you should not have come here. This galaxy belongs to us now." Blake stepped forward. "This galaxy belongs to the people who live in it. You're not welcome here." The creature laughed, a horrible sound. "We have consumed 1,000 worlds. Your 5 ships cannot stop us. We'll see about that." Blake cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "Target their weapons systems. Use armor-piercing rounds." The battle began in earnest. The 5 human ships spread out and attacked from different angles. The Voidborn tried to surround them. But the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Captain Carter's ship, the UES Relentless, dove under a massive Voidborn vessel and fired its main guns upward. The rounds punched through the creature's belly and out its back. This time, the wounds didn't heal as quickly. "Captain Blake," came Carter's voice over the radio, "I think their healing ability has limits. If we do enough damage fast enough, we can kill them." "Understood. All ships, concentrate your fire. Don't give them time to regenerate." Dr. Santos's ship, the UES Harbinger, swooped in close to a wounded Voidborn vessel. Instead of attacking, she began using her ship's medical scanners to examine the enemy. "Captain Blake," she called, "I'm reading massive amounts of neural activity inside these ships. The captured people aren't just prisoners. They're being used as living computers." Blake felt sick. "Can we free them? I don't know. The integration is very deep. But maybe if we can disable the ship without destroying it completely." A new voice broke into their communications. It spoke in the musical language of the Zephyrians, with computer translation following. "Human ships, this is Admiral Kethfer of the Zephyrian Defense Fleet. We are grateful for your assistance." Blake responded quickly. "Admiral, this is Captain Blake. What's your situation? We have lost most of our fleet. The survivors are protecting the evacuation of our homeworld. We cannot hold much longer." Blake looked at his tactical display. More Voidborn ships were approaching from the outer system. They were outnumbered at least 10 to 1. "Admiral, get your people to safety. We'll hold them off as long as we can." The next few hours were the most intense battle Blake had ever experienced. The human ships used every trick they had learned in 2 centuries of warfare. They set traps with hidden mines. They used the system's asteroids for cover. They even rammed damaged Voidborn ships when their ammunition ran low. Commander Stone coordinated the battle from his position on the Vengeance. "Captain Kelly, use your torpedoes to collapse that asteroid field. We can trap 3 enemy ships in the debris." Captain Kelly's voice came back, strained but determined. "Copy that. Firing torpedoes now." Explosion lit up space as thousands of asteroids crashed into the Voidborn vessels. 2 of them were crushed completely. The third tried to escape but ran straight into the guns of the UES Defiant. But for every enemy ship they destroyed, more appeared. Blake was starting to worry they wouldn't have enough ammunition to win. "Captain," said Murphy, "I'm picking up something strange. Long-range sensors show massive energy signatures coming from the edge of the system." Blake looked at the display and felt his heart sink. Dozens more Voidborn ships were arriving. These were even larger than the ones they were already fighting. "Admiral Kethfer," Blake called, "how many of your people are left on the planet?" 2 billion, Captain Blake. "The evacuation is only half complete." Blake made a decision that would haunt him forever. All human ships fall back to the planet. We're going to make our stand there. as the 5 battered human battleships retreated. Toward the Zephorian homeworld, Blake watched the enemy fleet pursue them. The space around the planet was about to become a killing field. "Captain," said Dr. Santos over the radio, "I've been analyzing the void-born biology. I think I found a weakness. Tell me, ships are alive, which means they can get sick. If we could introduce some kind of virus or toxin into their systems, do you have anything that could work?" "Maybe, but I'd need to get close to one of their ships. Very close." Blake looked at the approaching enemy fleet. In a few hours, they would be in weapons range of the planet. 2 billion innocent people were counting on 5 human ships to save them. "Dr. Santos, do whatever you need to do. We're running out of options." As the void-born fleet drew closer, Blake wondered if the galaxy was about to learn that even humanity's most dangerous ships weren't dangerous enough. The massive void-born fleet approached the Zephorian homeworld like a swarm of angry insects. Captain Blake watched from the bridge of the UES Vengeance as enemy ships filled the space around the planet. There were over 200 of them now, including several enormous vessels that dwarfed even his battleships. "Captain," said Lieutenant Murphy, "those big ships are reading as high vessels. Our intelligence says they're mobile factories that can build more void-born ships." Blake studied the tactical display. The enemy had them completely surrounded. But during the week they had spent preparing for this moment, the human fleet had not been idle. "Commander Stone, are the defense platforms ready?" Stone smiled grimly. "All 100 of them, Captain. The Zephorians gave us access to their orbital construction facilities. We've been very busy." Blake had ordered his technical crews to work around the clock building automated defense platforms using salvaged Zephorian technology and human weapons. The platforms were hidden throughout the system, waiting for the right moment. "Dr. Santos, what's the status of your biological weapon?" Dr. Santos's voice came over the radio from her ship. "I've synthesized a virus that should attack the organic components of their ships, but I need to inject it directly into their hull to make it work. That means getting close enough to touch them." "Yes, sir. Very close." Blake looked at the approaching enemy fleet. Getting close to a void-born ship was almost certainly suicide, but they were running out of options. "All right, here's what we're going to do," Blake announced to all 5 ships. "We're going to hit them with everything we have at once. Stone, activate all the defense platforms when I give the signal. Santos, get ready to make your run." The first void-born ships entered weapons range and immediately began firing. Their molecular disruptor beams lanced through space, turning asteroids into clouds of atoms. Blake was relieved to see that his ship's shields could deflect the weapons, at least for a while. "Return fire," Blake ordered. The 5 human battleships opened up with their full arsenal. Railgun rounds smashed into enemy hulls. Plasma cannons carved through organic armor. Nuclear missiles exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But there were too many enemies. For every void-born ship they damaged, 5 more took its place. Blake watched his ammunition count dropping rapidly. "Captain," said his weapons officer, "we're down to 60% munitions. Stone, activate the platforms. All of them." Suddenly, space around the planet erupted with weapons fire. 100 hidden defense platforms revealed themselves and began attacking the void-born fleet from unexpected angles. The enemy ships found themselves caught in a crossfire they hadn't seen coming. "Direct hits on multiple targets," Stone reported. "The platforms are using modified Zephorian particle beams with human targeting systems, much more effective than we hoped." Several void-born ships exploded as the coordinated attack overwhelmed their defenses. But the largest vessels, the hive ships, barely seemed to notice the attacks. Their thick armor absorbed the weapons fire without significant damage. "Captain Blake," came Admiral Kethver's voice from the planet's surface. "Our sensors show the enemy is preparing to bombard the planet. We have perhaps 1 hour before they break through our shields." Blake made a desperate decision. "Dr. Santos, it's time. Make your run on the nearest hive ship." "Understood, Captain." The UES Harbinger is beginning attack approach. Blake watched on his screen as Dr. Santos's ship dove toward the massive enemy vessel. The Harbinger was the smallest of the human battleships. Built for speed and medical operations rather than heavy combat, Voidborn fighters swarmed toward the Harbinger, trying to stop its approach. But Captain Carter's ship, the UES Relentless, swept in from the side and destroyed the fighters with its defensive guns. "Santos, you have a clear path," Carter called. The Harbinger flew directly at the hive ship's hull, dodging massive tentacles that tried to swat it out of space. At the last second, Dr. Santos fired a special torpedo filled with her biological weapon directly into the creatures. "Skin torpedo away," she announced, pulling back now. For a moment nothing happened. Then the hive ship began to convulse. Its hull changed color from dark red to sickly green. The other Voidborn ships near it started to show the same symptoms. "Working," Murphy shouted. "The virus is spreading through their fleet." Blake watched in amazement as one after another the Voidborn ships began to die. The virus Dr. Santos had created was attacking the organic components that held their vessels together. Within minutes, dozens of enemy ships were breaking apart. But the celebration was short-lived. A new alarm sounded on the bridge. "Captain," said Murphy, "long-range sensors are detecting another fleet." "A human fleet," Blake frowned. "That's impossible. We're the only human ships in this sector." The main screen changed to show new contacts approaching fast. Blake's eyes widened as he recognized the ships. "Admiral Morrison," he said to himself. Admiral Kate Morrison's voice filled the bridge. "Captain Blake, this is the Terra Defense Fleet. We're here to provide backup." Blake looked at the tactical display and couldn't believe what he was seeing. Morrison had brought 3 entire battle groups. 90 human warships were dropping out of hyperspace around the system. "Admiral, how did you get here so fast?" Blake asked. "We were already in space, conducting training exercises. When we got your message about the Voidborn threat, I decided we couldn't wait for official orders." Blake smiled for the first time in days. "I'm very glad to see you, Admiral. The arrival of the human reinforcements changed everything." The Voidborn fleet, already weakened by Dr. Santos's virus, found itself facing nearly 100 human warships with full ammunition loads and fresh crews. "Commander." Stone coordinated the new attack patterns. "All ships, target the remaining hive vessels. Don't let any of them escape." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships attacked in coordinated waves, using tactics developed during humanity's most violent wars. They showed no mercy and gave no quarter. The Voidborn, for the first time in their existence, found themselves outmatched. Human weapons were primitive by galactic standards, but they were devastatingly effective. Nuclear warheads didn't care about energy shields. Railgun rounds punched through hull armor like it was paper. Within 6 hours, the entire Voidborn fleet was destroyed. The last enemy ship tried to escape into hyperspace, but Captain Kelly's ship intercepted it, blew it apart with a full missile barrage. Blake sat in his command chair and looked at the tactical display. The space around Kepler 442 was filled with debris from destroyed Voidborn vessels. In the distance, the Zephyrian homeworld shields were powering down as the threat passed. "Captain," said Dr. Santos over the radio, "I'm reading life signs in some of the wreckage. The people who were trapped inside the Voidborn ships are still alive. Begin rescue operations immediately. Save everyone you can." As the human fleet spread out to search for survivors, Blake received a priority message from Earth. It was from the Galactic Council. "Captain Blake," said the alien voice, "we have monitored your battle. The Council wishes to express its gratitude for your success." Blake looked at the message for a long moment before responding. "Tell the Council that Earth protects its allies. Always." But even as he said it, Blake knew this was just the beginning. The Voidborn had come from somewhere else, and there were probably more of them. The galaxy was about to learn that when humanity said they would protect someone, they meant it, and they had the ships to prove it. 3 days after the battle, Captain Blake stood in the medical bay of the UES Vengeance and watched Dr. Santos work on the survivors they had pulled from the wreckage of Voidborn ships. The rescued prisoners were from dozens of different species, all of them traumatized by their experience. "How many did we save?" Blake asked. Dr. Santos looked up from her patient, a young Zephyrian who was unconscious but breathing. Over 3,000 so far. But Captain, what they went through, ... She shook her head. The Voidborn didn't just capture them. It connected their nervous systems directly to the ship's controls. These people were forced to feel every weapon that fired, every impact their ship took. Blake felt sick. Can you help them? With time? Yes. But they'll need months of treatment to recover fully. Blake walked through the medical bay, looking at the survivors. He saw humans weren't the only ones capable of violence. But unlike the Voidborn, humans fought to protect others, not to cause suffering. Commander Stone found Blake an hour later. On the bridge, Captain, we've finished analyzing the battle data. I think you need to see this. Blake followed Stone to the tactical station. The screen showed a detailed breakdown of the battle, including ammunition usage and damage reports. Am I looking at? Blake asked. Our efficiency rating, sir? In the entire battle, counting both engagements, we used less than 15% of our total firepower. Blake stared at the numbers. 15%? Yes, sir. We destroyed over 200 enemy vessels, saved 3 billion people, and rescued 3,000 prisoners. We barely used any of our real capabilities. Blake was quiet for a moment. Stone, make sure this data stays classified for now. It's already done, Captain. But sir, the Galactic Council was monitoring the battle. They have their own analysis. Blake sighed. He knew the political consequences of this victory would be complicated. The galaxy now knew that humanity had been hiding the true size and power of their military forces. Lieutenant Murphy approached with a datapad. Captain, we're receiving a priority communication from Admiral Kethfer on the planet's surface. He wants to meet with you in person. Set up a shuttle. I'll go down to meet with him. 2 hours later, Blake stood in the ruins of what had once been the Zephyrian capital city. The Voidborn bombardment had destroyed most of the buildings, but the people were alive. That was what mattered. Admiral Kethfer met him at the landing site. The alien officer was tall and thin, with blue skin and large eyes that showed intelligence and gratitude. Captain Blake Kethfer said in accented English, I wanted to thank you personally. Without your fleet, my people would be extinct. We did what anyone would do, Admiral. Kethfer tilted his head, a gesture that Blake had learned meant disagreement. In Zephyrian culture, no, Captain. Many species would have been too afraid to face the Voidborn. Others would have arrived too late. Only humans came when we needed help most. They walked through the damaged city together. Blake saw Zephyrian families emerging from underground shelters, reuniting with loved ones they thought they'd lost. Forever, Captain, Kethfer said quietly. May I ask you something personal? Of course. Why do humans fight so hard for people you've never met? The Galactic Council records show that Earth has sent military aid to 17 different species. In the last 50 years, you risk your lives for strangers. Blake thought about the question for a moment. Admiral, humans spent most of our history fighting each other. We learned that the cost of violence is always high, but we also learned that sometimes the cost of not fighting is even higher. Kethfer nodded slowly. The Council debates whether humanity is too dangerous to trust, but I think they asked the wrong question. What do you mean? They should ask whether humanity is too dangerous not to trust. Blake smiled. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said about us. That evening, Blake returned to his ship too. Find a priority message waiting from Earth. Admiral Morrison appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Blake could see the flags of every human colony world. Captain Blake, Morrison said, you and your crews have done something incredible. But we need to talk about what happens next. What do you mean, Admiral? The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. I want to discuss new security. Arrangements for the galaxy, Blake. They want humanity to take a leading role. Blake frowned. A leading role in what? In protecting everyone. Council has realized that the Voidborn might not be the only threat out there. They want Earth to establish permanent defense fleets in every major system. Blake thought about what that would mean. Human ships stationed throughout the galaxy, ready to respond to any crisis. It was a huge responsibility. Admiral, do we have enough ships for that? Morrison smiled. Blake, the Terra Defense Fleet has over 2,000 active warships. We've been building them for decades, preparing for threats that hadn't appeared yet. The 5 ships you commanded were just the beginning. Blake sat down heavily in his command chair. 2,000 ships. The galaxy had no idea how prepared humanity really was for war. There's something else, Morrison continued. Several species have formally requested military alliances with Earth. They want human protection in exchange for trade agreements and technology sharing. Which species? 17 so far, including the Zephyrians. Blake, humanity is about to become the dominant military power in this galaxy. The question is, are we ready for that responsibility? Blake looked out at the stars through his bridge windows. In the distance, he could see human ships patrolling the space around the Zephyrian homeworld, making sure no other threats could approach. Admiral, humans have always been good at one thing: protecting the people we care about. If the galaxy wants our protection, they'll have it, even if they're afraid of us. Blake thought about his conversation with Admiral Kethfer. Especially if they're afraid of us. Fear means respect, and respect means they'll listen when we tell them how to stay safe. Morrison nodded. Then it's settled. Earth will accept the Council's request. We'll establish the Galactic Defense Force with human ships and human commanders. Like this changes everything. We're not just another species anymore. We're the Guardians. After the communication ended, Blake stood alone on his bridge. Through the windows, he could see the lights of Zephyrian cities coming back online as the people rebuilt their world. In a few days, his fleet would return to Earth as heroes, but Blake knew the real work was just beginning. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of threats like the Voidborn, and now it was humanity's job to stand guard against the darkness. Dr. Santos came onto the bridge with her final medical report. Captain, all the survivors are stable. They're going to recover completely. That's good news, Doctor. Santos looked out at the planet below. Captain, do you think we did the right thing, taking on this responsibility for the whole galaxy? Blake thought about the 3,000 people they had saved from the Voidborn ships. He thought about the 3 billion Zephyrians who were alive, because 5 human ships had answered a call for help. Doctor, someone once told me that the only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good people to do nothing. Humans aren't perfect, but we're willing to fight when it matters. Smiled. Then I guess the galaxy is in good hands. Blake looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, other species were learning that when they called for help, Earth sent its most dangerous fleet. And Earth's most dangerous fleet would always answer. The galaxy would never be the same. But maybe Blake thought that was exactly what it needed.